What's going on, everybody?
How's it going?
Welcome to Scenic Views. This specific portion of the show is called Flick Chat with Frack and Frack, where we, just a couple everyday fans, a bunch of nuts for cinema, both past, present, and future, discuss movies and everything movies, past, present, and future. If you've been following our channel, you've been seeing that we've been doing movie reviews and trailer reviews and even speculation. And really, at the end of the day, we like talking movies a lot. We really like movies, which kind of brings us to the main point of what we thought would be the first good podcast / episode or blog or vlog, if you will, of Flick Chat with Frack and Frack. And that's the importance of movies and why we need them. Yeah. You know, as I said, we like to review movies. We like to discuss movies, all things movies. We like to speculate. And at the end of the day, it seems pretty trivial, right? Like, it's just two guys who are taking a lot of extra time that they could be doing with other things to discuss film, to discuss cinema, to discuss all things in that realm. And for some people, you know, it might be a question of, well, okay, thanks for the information, but it's pointless, right? Like,
I feel like, you know, what separates us from that is that we kind of have a deeper appreciation for this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? This is literally like our lives. This is what we do. Is we talk about movies and we discuss them. Yeah, exactly.
Anything in the media field in general. But the main topic for today that we really wanted to discuss, as we said, is the need for movies. Why they're so important in our society. And I think, you know, to answer that question, there's you can't just say, well, this is why we need movies right away. It's not, you know, because at the end of the day, film is subjective.
Exactly.
But even then, that statement alone has a much deeper, you know, thought to it. There's more meat there.
I think that the great thing about this medium, man, is that, you know, that it's like you said, there isn't one reason, because there are, you know, are an infinite amount of movies out there, and there's like an infinite amount of genres when you think about it. There's different types of movies for different type of people, and that gives you different kind of reasons why these movies are important.
I agree, man. I think if I had to pin it down, though, you know, I usually have this conversation with friends, and they ask me, and I've even got friends who recently see me getting more and more and more involved in movies, and their understanding of why I can sometimes feel is like it's a joke. It's like, okay, you know, there goes Gio talking movies again, and it seems trivial, to say the least. It seems stupid. But I really do think movies are important. I think movies are necessary, and the reason why is, I think if you look at the nature of man and of humanity as a whole, I'm very much into the psychological aspect of a lot of things, and that's one of the reasons why I like movies. And I'm big into psychology and you know, sociology and all these things that have to deal with human behavior, whether it's the mind, whether it's society playing a role in that, and what it all boils down to is that ultimately, you and I, humanity as a whole, we're creatures of fellowship.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look, we have a whole show to some degree on fellowship. It's us discussing movies. We're talking, and everything about humanity is based in stories. The major religions of the world, down to history, down to our laws, down to everything. It has to do with the exchange of ideas. It has to do with the exchange of speech, the exchange of one another, fellowship, if you will. And I think if you trace the idea of storytelling back, it goes as far back as, you know, elders sitting around the campfire, speaking to their communities, teaching them through these stories, through these little modes of entertainment, through these inspirational stories, informational stories. Some stories are to scare. Even the origin of fairy tales They weren't just meant to be this goofy thing.
Not at all.
They had a meaning. Yeah. They had a message. And
you trace a lot of those back, bro, and it's a lot of like dark, really meaningful, you know, stories, bro.
Absolutely. And the community and the kids listening to the story, they would follow along and they'd hear it. And they not only would be entertained, but they would walk away with a lesson.
Yeah.
Now, like anything, like music, like movies, like food, like anything that has substance, there's always going to be the candy side, right? Yeah. There's going to be the sweet side, and that's where you get a lot of those movies that are just pure, just VFX porn, or just pure like visual
CGI
like
nonsense, like,
you know, and even if it's not CGI, just pure visual overload, Michael Bay. And so, you know, some of us don't have, you know, a tolerance for that kind of stuff. Now, you know, there's a market for that. Some people like mindless thoughts, or some people like mindless, movies or times I have a fan. Look, I have a fan. I have a few of myself that
we all have those those movies we watch just to watch them, just to be kind of easily entertained.
Yeah,
you know
yeah, we all have those guilty pleasures.
We're not dissing those movies whatsoever. You know what I mean? We understand
there's
a fan base for that. You know what I mean? But again, it's like you were saying, there's other movies out there that I think are real important with that have substance and that kind of reflect how we are as a society. That
Absolutely.
I feel like that really hit a lot of good points on a global scale.
No, I agree, and I think the power in movies is that when you even go as far back as when the medium was first created and first coming into fruition, and then you get early iconic directors and movie makers like just a few D.W. Griffith and George Méliès. Like a lot of their movies and a lot of what they did and a lot of the content that they did was, of course, it was entertaining, but then that medium was used to not only inspire an audience but to inform an audience. It was used to not only as an escape, but because we want to escape the everyday life. We want to get away from the everyday struggles. But even then, when you leave, it's like when you go to space, you don't just go to space. You have to train, right? You have to know what you're getting into. So when you come back, at least your bones aren't withered away. Exactly. And kind of like movies, I know it's a very stupid analogy, but like movies, if I'm going to escape and get away from the everyday world, I still want to at least walk away with something. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like some substance. And I think movies play an important role in our society because it says a lot, like you said, about where society is at. It says a lot. Even movies, you can tell a lot about an individual by the movies they like. Yeah. Speaking for myself, I'm like, for example, one of my favorite directors of all time, writer-directors, is Christopher Nolan. I love his movies. I love the stuff that he does. And you can tell that based off of the movies that I watch from him, and not just him, but in general, movies like that. Movie with deep thoughts, substance, deeper meanings, movies that I have to watch over and over to kind of catch something for the second time or the third time. Like I like movies that force me to think, that take me to my cerebral edge, if you will.
Yeah, it's movies that you got to go and you can't just take everything at face value. You know what I mean? You really got to break down.
And those are my favorite kind of movies.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
those are my favorite kind of movies. Now you don't get that with Star Wars or the Marvel movies. To some degree, you do if you're involved and you understand the overall cinematic universe, in which case you're watching it and you're getting little things and you're seeing how they connect. But even then, these movies are say so much about us. Like, so for example, Bright, the movie that's coming out on Netflix with Will Smith.
Will Smith, yeah.
It's such a timely movie because it shows us the divide of people, in this case, species, right? Yeah. Orcs and humans, and it shows the prejudice that's naturally in us, like District 9, or even when you watch the trailer that we saw for The Shape of Water, the thing that's deep in us that always forces us to do good in the face of opposition, even though when good doesn't seem like it's the socially acceptable thing. But all these things, like movies explore so many of these topics, and some people think they're going to the movies just to just be entertained,
and
but they don't even realize
that might be your initial goal. You know what I mean? Is to go just to be entertained. But a lot of these movies will let you, like you said, walk away with something, man.
Yeah, and most people, whether or not they know it, they're being influenced by the things that they ingest, the things that they experience and hear, and that's all we are. We're creatures that experience everything between the two ears, and everything is perception to us. And so these movies are done with meticulous amounts of planning so that a specific message can get across, and sometimes not even a message, just the visuals, whatever, but they're done with a purpose. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when I talk about why I like movies, me personally, I think it's because it says a lot about an individual.
Desert Island, 5 movies, go.
Okay, first, Legally Blonde.
When I ask a person what kind of movie they like and they start going down the list of the movies they like and we start discussing, I can kind of get an idea about them. And I'm not saying I know who they are, but seeing the kind of movies they like, it says a lot. It's something so much more deeper, and they play such a large role in society.
And, the reason for that, man, is because like if you go down the list, like you said, if you ask somebody what kind of movies do you like, you can get a lot of things. You can get like what kind of stories do they like? You know what I mean? Are they the same as mine? You can even get what kind of sense of humor do they have? You know what I mean? Because you get a lot of people that'll say, I don't like Will Ferrell's movies. So if you don't like Will Ferrell's movies, but I like Will Ferrell's movies, then maybe your sense of humors aren't going to match up. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm more of a Vince Vaughn kind of guy, but that's me.
But
you bring up a good point. Like you like Will Ferrell movies. they're hit or miss. You know what I'm saying? Like some of them, like, okay, there he is. And then other times it's
I think early on they were real good. You know what I mean? As the years went on, like, you kind of started to get a little stale.
But again, that's just me because I come with a set of baggage to every movie I watch.
Of course,
every movie I watch, I come with Gio's own set of insecurities, securities, confidences, that's not things that I like, things I dislike, things that I've experienced in my life, things that speak to me. So when you look at movies like Moonlight, like that resonated with an audience because there was a message there. And I love when directors know, like for me, I'm one of those directors that when I make a movie, I know that you're only going to want to be mindlessly entertained and you're going to judge it, right? But I like to put the medicine in the food. I don't like it to be heavy-handed. But because I know people just want to be mindlessly entertained, and there are certain messages that you can't get across to a person via conversation. Sometimes they need to see a movie. Like the Holocaust is a very, very touchy subject with a lot of people. But then you watch a movie like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and that message hits home because we see it from two innocent perspectives on just how stupid the overall conflict and the overall behavior of the Nazis and what was taking place back then was.
And then you have other movies, like, for example, Schindler's List, huge movie. And, it gives you kind of the other side. It gives you, it shows you that, there's people in Germany, there's Nazis, but are all these people bad or are they following orders?
Right.
Are
they following orders?
Exactly.
And then you go to like, okay, so you take that story as a map and you put it over in Rogue One where you have somebody like Orson Krennic, who was the guy who was forcing Galen Erso to build the Death Star. And Galen Erso was a purist. Him and his wife are purists. But when you read the book, you see how he manipulates, Orson Krennic manipulates Erso into thinking, oh, this is good, this is right. And so he legitimately thinks he's doing something good for the Empire. And then people on the other end are like, this monster, this terrorist. And it at least shows us the other side. Like, and that's kind of what I like about even the new stuff coming out with Star Wars is it's so easy to paint people as black and white enemies, dark side, white. But you see that on the other side why they think they're the way they think. And why why they go through what they're going through and how they might think they're right, and sometimes they might be justified and other times it's not, and then that leads into why that makes the scariest villain. The scariest villain being an individual that
who's relatable,
who's not only relatable, but he's scary because he's convinced he's doing the right thing.
He's convinced he's doing the right thing.
Right.
And, that kind of touches on, something that we were talking about earlier, reflecting society. And I think, what Star Wars is doing, with these characters too, is showing you that it's not always black and white. Society is very much in the gray area. Right. You know what I mean? So when you see a character who's building the Death Star and thinking he's right, and then, maybe like, when you watch the original Star Wars movies, it's very simple to say the Empire is the bad guy. Right. You know what I mean? It's like the Empire, no, they're the bad guy. Yeah. And when you see a movie like Rogue One, it shows you like, it's very possible that there were innocent people on that Death Star that died.
Right. And again, these are movies, right? Yeah. So why is that important? Because that translates into real life. These are things now with today's society, with things that are going on. Especially in politics, and not getting into that, and not that's not something that we want to discuss. No, but you see the strong divides, and I happen to be somebody. As far as politics goes, I'm on the outside realm. I'm not in it at all. I don't care for it. But I see both sides. I see the Democrats, the Republicans, they're fighting, and both sides really believe they're right. And if you can come with this level of empathy and at least trying to understand your neighbor, maybe there can be a shift in the conscience, the collective conscience as a whole. And of course, we've got religious books that do the same. But the religious books that are there that tell these stories, the movies that tell these stories, the songs that tell these stories, these are all stories in general, and these are just mediums by which people can cling on to and hopefully walk away with the message. And of course, music does that, painting does that, art does that as a whole. But we're speaking movies in this specific case. And I'm a firm believer that politics don't change the world. Artists do. Yeah. And it's artists who speak on things and very deep subject matter in movies and music and paintings in a way that people can understand it in bite-sized doses, if you will. Yeah. And it's through their art that they relay this message. And there's a saying, art reflects life. But truth is stranger than fiction, right? So there's so much that movies do, and that's why I like movies. Again, that's why I love movies so much, because I really do think that they play a pivotal role in our society. Now, is it a big corporation thing where people are making money and is it a big machine? Absolutely. But I think if you can go in it with the mindset of understanding that you can take something from this. Like for me, I understand movies are an industry. I understand it's a big machine. I understand that.
That's one side of it too.
That's one side.
That's one side. Yeah.
But it's almost like infiltrating that mechanism. Okay, I know that this is what it is, and I know they only care to make money. They're only looking for trends. But if in that medium I can come in there and give you the entertainment and put the medicine in the food, if you will. And that's what a lot of these artists and these directors are doing. They're just playing by the rules.
Yeah.
There are rules set in place, and like, you know what, things aren't going to change. So based off of the rules that are here, you know what, I'm going to be very shrewd with this, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a movie that really pierces society. And that's what a lot of these filmmakers, I think, are aiming to do. You know, people like Ava DuVernay, people like I forget the director's name of Moonlight.
Yeah, I always forget his name.
It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah. Gosh, I forget. Yeah, wait, let's fact check. But that's what some of these new directors doing. Ryan Coogler. I mean, even Spielberg, I know in his movies has made it a point to put stuff in there, and the list goes on.
Barry Jenkins.
Barry Jenkins. And you know, I haven't seen Moonlight yet. I just haven't gotten around to it. Yeah. But man, I hear it's such a phenomenal movie, and I hear it plays such a pivotal role in speaking on a subject matter that in everyday conversation would be a little bit more combative. Yeah. It seems. So, I mean, on my end, I think that's why I love movies so much, and I think that's why they're necessary. And again, there was no format here. There's really quick, there's no format to this. There's no 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. This is us just talking, discussing why we like movies and why we think they're important to society. Just, you know, spitfiring.
You know, as far as being important to society, you know, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's just the entertainment side of it. I think that the great thing about movies is that no matter what type of person you are, there's a movie out there for everybody. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, you think back at like when you go and hang out with your friends. How many times do you guys go, oh, we can go to the movies? Okay, well, what's out? We can watch this. No, I'm not feeling that. Right. Oh, we can watch this. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. You know what I mean? No matter what is out, there's always something out there for somebody to get into. And I think that's, you know, speaks volumes of how important movies are to society.
I agree.
You know what I mean? On top of the fact that, yeah, it's an easy way, or not an easy way, but to me personally, I feel like it's the best way to tell, you know, some of these stories from the past. Like, even if you go to like old movies, like, I don't know if you've ever seen The Odyssey, you know, back in the day. You know, that's a movie based on a story that was around during Greek mythology, you know what I mean, during back in the day. And, you know, it takes those stories and kind of puts them on a global scale, and it lets everybody see like, wow, you know, these were the stories that were told back then. And I think, you know, that's just really important to, you know, not only just to maintain, you know, history, but to let you know, different kind of cultures and stuff like that.
And it's funny you mentioned history, because then you got movies like Birth of a Nation, which was overtly racist, and then you have the new Birth of a Nation, and it's almost like reclaiming that title, reclaiming that mindset, that phrase, and you see these two opposing movies, and you see that they are a reflection of not the time, but yeah, I would say of the time, especially today, when Nat Turner. Is that his name? No, Nat Turner's the character.
Yeah, let me see.
Nate Parker.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, you look at you know, Birth of a Nation back then, you look at Birth of a Nation now, and you see the just the drastic difference of movie subject matter, but how the title is speaking on behalf of something. So for example, the original Birth of a Nation is the birth of America, and then it's showing a lot of racist content, but that was normal for everybody. Yeah. But today, with you know, so many people and you know, being conscious, if you will, or speaking on matters, or even speaking up on the truths and the ills of American history, and then so that movie is made by Nate Parker, and it shows that you know, no, this is the birth of a nation, and it's such a reflection of the time. It's such a reflection of what was going on in very interesting ways. Like when you watch a movie, sometimes, they say movies are timeless. And I would say that goes for the story.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, sometimes there are movies that are not timeless per se,
Some
but that
movies
really
don't hold up,
speak of the era.
Yeah.
And it says a lot. When I watch a lot of 90s movies, I'm just like, wow, that just speaks volumes to where we were
exactly. At. I was watching a movie recently, and it escapes me what it was, but I remember watching this movie and just thinking to myself, like, damn, today this would not get released. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I was watching Armageddon. I think Armageddon would have been done completely differently.
Oh, absolutely.
But it was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I watch it now as an adult, and it's become a guilty pleasure. Yeah. I know some people think it still holds up, but for me, I'm just like, I was laying down on my couch watching the movie, and I was just like,
I'm like that with the very first X-Men movie. I love it because X-Men is just my favorite thing ever. You know what I mean? I love the X-Men. But I watched this movie I actually watched it earlier this year. The very first X-Men movie that came out in 2000, and I was like, yeah, done today, this would go very differently. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
obviously,
I think X2 still holds up. Don't get me wrong. X2 to me, I think it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But just that original one, I'm like, yeah, that would be done really differently today. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, some of my guilty pleasures as a child, or my favorite movies as a child, when I look at now, are like guilty pleasures, like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. They don't hold up at all, but because of my mindset as a kid and where I was at, like, I loved it. Like, and now I don't care what anybody says. Swamp Thing to me still holds up. The Rocketeer is one of my favorite movies, and it's the movie that got me into cinema as a whole. That still holds up. The original Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
I watched that every day one summer. Every day.
It's crazy you spoke on that because, when we talk about where we were at as a society at the time, with these new Ninja Turtles movies that are coming out, a lot of people, dish on them. They're like, they're so over the top, so crazy. And then the way I look at it, and we might differ on this, is we don't always agree. But the way I see it is that, they're over the top, they're crazy. But I mean, look at the originals, bro. Like, look at the concept as a whole. A turtle gets mutated into a teenager and learns kung fu. Like, the concept itself is
have an issue with the concept.
The top.
The concept
so that's why when these movies come out and they're crazy and over the top, I'm like, well, yeah, but the concept itself is crazy and over the top.
It's just Michael Bay taking another one of my childhood pieces and destroying it. I'm sorry. I
know. Again, we differ on opinion on some things.
I'm sorry.
But personally, when I see it, again, it's like I said, the concept itself is over the top. So when I see the movie, be a little crazy and over the top, it's easier for me to digest just because, like, if you look at it as a whole, this turtle was fighting the Shredder while, what's his name? Oh my God, white rapper, the most famous,
Vanilla Ice.
Vanilla Ice, yeah.
Well, that's not my favorite. I hate that one.
Raps in the background.
The original Ninja Turtle movies, all trash except the first one.
Oh, you're crazy.
The first one, I go back and I watch it. I'm just like, this is still good. But Go Ninja, and then the travel to Japan.
It's 2-1-3 to me.
No,
it's 2-1-3, bro.
No, sir, you are out of your mind.
Turtle, we can at least agree.
Erroneous.
We can at least agree that Turtles in Time was by far the worst. Please, we can at least agree on that. Turtles in Time was by far the worst.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, the second one was cool. Yeah. But I mean, Ninja kick a damn rabbit. Like, I don't know, man. But it's interesting because as we talk about this, without knowing, we leave a movie inspired, angry, upset, happy, sad, in love. These movies have the ability to affect our psyche, and directors like Alfred Hitchcock, who were very deep into psychology, understood how to get to the audience where, regardless, the movie's going to affect you. Then there's others who know that it's going to affect you and they try to push it even further. But one way or the other, no matter what you say about movies, they have an effect on how you think. And so I think overall, movies they have a place in society until something comes up down the road where the format of storytelling or movie evolves. I don't see movies going anywhere, and I'm one of those few people that still believe in the cinema going experience.
And I'm going to tell you why.
And I hope that doesn't go away.
One of the reasons why, like you said, the movies aren't going anywhere is because, like we said, you get both sides of it. So, there's the business side of it. Yeah. You get these movies literally making billions of dollars, making people, studios, a ton of money. Yeah. And then you get the other side, that there's movies coming out that, affect people on an emotional level that are just artistically beautiful.
Right.
One of the great things about movies is that you literally can feel every emotion when you're going into a movie. There's movies that are going to make you laugh. There's movies that are going to make you cry. There's movies that are going to keep you in suspense. There's movies that are going to, anger you, make you feel angry. You know what I mean? And, when we have an art form that makes people a ton of money, as well as makes people feel a plethora of human emotion, you know what I mean? That's going to stand the test of time.
Right, absolutely. And I think not enough credit goes to the directors of photography, the producers, the editors, the scores, the people who make the music, and how much work goes into this. These are talented people, and these are people who really know how to connect. Some don't, Michael Bay, but know how to really resonate with an audience.
You're angry at Michael Bay today. You are angry at him today.
I cannot stand him. I am a man of substance.
Not even Bad Boys 1 and 2?
No. Don't get me wrong. I love Bad Boys. There are movies of his. Okay, I'm not going to say that they aren't good. The Rock, all these things are good. But there are movies that you could see he's been just slowly but
just trying to milk the machine. Just trying to milk the machine.
Yeah. That's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to milk the machine. But ultimately, the point I was trying to, I guess, bring is that these movies and these projects and these productions being done by these people, they don't get enough credit. And I think another thing that's important to note is that media in general, when used for good, is a very powerful tool, and when misused is very powerful. I forget who says it, but he said, it's a quote I heard, that when you go and invade a nation, the first thing that you take over is their media. Yeah. Because that's how you influence them. That's how you put out propaganda. And that's what made people like Hitler rise to power. Like the propaganda of the media usage at that time and his ability to manipulate people was so powerful. Now imagine if you take movies and use them in a much more powerful light, in a much more positive light. And that's where you get documentaries. But because it becomes so oversaturated, after a while it just becomes the word that we use over and over, trivial. It just becomes, it loses, and it's just like, movies. And thankfully I grew up in a household with my mom who we were always watching movies. My dad doesn't like movies. He's getting more into movies now because I like movies and we can connect on that level. But my mom loves movies. And I would watch movies from, my very first horror movie. Matter of fact, we'll save that for another subject. Well, what was your very first horror movie experience? I think that'd be actually a really cool subject.
Absolutely.
People have heard this from me millions of times.
We gotta write that down.
But overall, I think movies have a place in society, and they need to stay. For those who watch this or who are thinking, movies, like, what's the point? Like, you guys are talking too much about stuff that's fake. It's art, and if you don't realize and appreciate the role that art plays in society, for as far back as it goes to cavemen drawing on walls and elders sitting around campfires, to moving forward to sculptures, paintings, art has always been a reflection of the inner soul and the deeper parts and the darker recesses of the human heart. Art has always played a role in the advancement of society. Art has always been one of those things that it has inspired people to try new things, to create new things. And I think movies are just one of those mediums. And that's why I say movies have a role in society, and they're here to stay. At least I hope they're here to stay. And why they're so important. Again, these are just our thoughts. But join in on the conversation.
Please,
Let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think movies play a role? Do you guys like movies, or just are they just whatever for you? We didn't hit every subject because we tried not to go into the show.
Quite honestly, if we were to hit every subject when it comes to movies with us two, this would be a 3-hour-long video.
Yeah, and we try to go into each show with an idea of what we want to talk about and just letting the nature of the conversation unfold as it is. So there's going to be things every time I edit one of these videos, I look back and I'm like, we missed this, we missed that, we missed this. So let us know, what do you guys think? What are some points that we forgot to touch on? And we'll engage with you in the comment section and in the chat boards. Again, if you have any questions or emails or any topics that you want us to cover on Flick Chat with Frick and Frat, right here, Scenic Views Movie News at gmail.com. Like, share, as always.
Most importantly,
subscribe. Let your friends, family know. Join in on the conversation, and until next time, we look forward to it.